Hello everyone, welcome to Prelims Warm Up. This initiative has been brought to you by Aptiplus Academy for Civil Services, and my name is Shaik Datta. I am the faculty for Geography and Environment at Aptiplus Academy for Civil Services. In this initiative, we are looking at 5 questions which are asked or which were asked in the previous year UPSC Prelims examination, and we will start the session with the first question of today. So the first question for today is, and this question is from history. With reference to forced labor, also called as Vishti, with reference to forced labor or Vishti in India during the Gupta period, which one of the following statements is correct? Okay, so you have been asked to find out which of the given statements are correct or is correct with regards to Vishti. What is Vishti? Forced labor which was practiced during the Gupta period. This question was asked in UPSC Prelims 2019. Let us see the options. Option A is saying Vishti, it was considered a source of income for the state. It was a sort of tax paid by the people. So, what is Vishti? It was considered a source of income for the state. It was a sort of tax paid by the people. B. It was totally absent in Madhya Pradesh and Kathiawar regions of the Gupta Empire. C. The forced laborer was entitled to weekly wages. The forced laborer was entitled to weekly wages. And D. The eldest son of the laborer was sent as the forced laborer. So you have been asked which out of these statements is correct with regards to Vishti or forced labor during the Gupta period. A. It was considered as a source of income for the state, a source of tax paid by the people. B. It was totally absent in Madhya Pradesh and Kathiawar regions of the Gupta Empire. C. The forced laborer was entitled to weekly wages. And D. The eldest son of the laborer was sent as the forced laborer. So let us look at the explanation first. So when we look at the explanation, it is saying that the forced labor, also called as Vishti, it is a forced labor which became more common than before in the 300 to 600 BC, in that period. Okay, so Vishti or forced labor, it became a much more prevalent practice. It became much more common than earlier what it used to be, and this prevalent practice, it became so prevalent during the period of 300 to 600 BC. It is mentioned along with taxes in land grant inscriptions, which suggest that it was considered as a source of income for the state. It was a sort of tax paid by the people. Okay? So it is mentioned along with taxes in land grant inscriptions, which suggest that it was considered as a source of income for the state. It was a sort of tax paid by the people. So A is the right answer. It was considered as a source of income for the state or a sort of tax which is paid by the people. Let us move on to the second question for today. And the second question is asking which one of the following groups of plants was domesticated in the New World and introduced into the Old World. So what is this New World, Old World concept? Let us look at the question once again. Which one of the following groups of plants was domesticated in the New World and introduced into the Old World? When we say New World, Old World, we are referring to those places, those countries where civilization, let's say if I'm talking about Old World, that means those areas where civilization had existed for a very long period of time, or it has existed for a very long period of time. Like it has a very long history of civilization. On the other hand, when we talk about New World, it is such an area which is having a comparatively lesser history or a comparatively shorter history of civilization. So which are these crops? A. Tobacco, cocoa and rubber. B. Tobacco, cotton and rubber. C. Cotton, coffee and sugarcane. And D. Rubber, coffee and wheat. So A. Tobacco, cocoa and rubber. B. Tobacco, cotton and rubber. C. Cotton, coffee and sugarcane. And D. Rubber, coffee and wheat. So out of these, which were domesticated in the New World and then introduced into the Old World? Okay. So let us have a look at the explanation again. So, after the voyages of Christopher Columbus, which happened in 1492, the Columbian exchange brought New World crops such as maize, potatoes. These are all New World crops. That is, those crops which have been grown in those areas which did not have a long history of civilization. So after the voyages of Christopher Columbus in 1492, the Columbian Exchange brought new world crops such as maize, potatoes, sweet potatoes, manioc to Europe, and the old world crops such as wheat, barley, rice, and turnips and livestock, including horses, cattle, sheep, and goats, to America. So, as you can understand, America is like a new world area, whereas Europe was an old world region. So what we get to see is that after the voyages of Christopher Columbus, new world crops, that is those crops which are grown in places like America, for example, maize, potatoes, sweet potatoes, manioc, etc., they were brought to Europe. Whereas old world crops such as wheat, like crops which were earlier grown in Europe, wheat, barley, rice, turnips, and livestock, for example, horses, cattle, sheep, and goats, they were brought from or they were taken from Europe to America. Okay, so the correct answer should be A, that is tobacco, cocoa, and rubber. Okay, tobacco, cocoa, and rubber, as you can understand over here. See over here. Okay, which of the following groups of plants were domesticated in the New World, that is in America and all, and introduced into Europe? So these were the ones which were usually domesticated in the New World, and finally they were introduced into Europe. So like maize, potatoes, sweet potatoes, manioc, तो उसी के साथ साथ we also get to see tobacco, cocoa, rubber, all of these were also there. Okay, and you might be aware that for example, in case of tobacco, cocoa, rubber, etc., there were large plantations in the New World area, for example in America, and it also has some relation with the slave trade which had taken place during that. Okay, so a lot of people were brought from Africa in the form of slaves, and they were made or they were forced to work in the plantations of Europeans who were settled in America. So these areas are called as the New World area. Okay. So for question number 2, the right answer is A. Moving on to the next question, that is question number 3, and this question is from environment. This question was asked in UPSC Prelims 2019. There are 3 statements and you have been asked to find out which out of these are correct. A, or first statement. Asiatic lion is naturally found in India only. Asiatic lion is naturally found in India only. This has been in the news, and hence it is very important that you should be aware about where Asiatic lions are found. Okay? The Asiatic lion is naturally found in India only. 2, double humped camel. Double humped camel is naturally found in India only. 3, one-horned rhinoceros is naturally found in India only. So these are the options which have been given to you, and you have to select which out of these is or are correct. Let us again go to the explanation part. So if I go to the explanation part, first of all, you must be aware that this Asiatic lion, it is only found in India, and that too in only one area of India, that is in Gujarat, that is in the Gir National Park of Gujarat. So Gir National Park, it is the last natural habitat of the Asiatic lion, only found in Gir. So Gujarat has a monopoly over these lions. These lions will be in the news because recently we also get to see that the lion census had taken place in Gujarat, and not only that, but from time to time we get to see a lot of lions die because of various reasons, like infighting will be there, territorial fights will be there, and also various diseases. For example, canine distemper is one such disease which keeps on killing a lot of lions from time to time. So statement 1 is correct. Statement 2, which was saying that double humped camel is naturally found in India only. So that is incorrect because we get to see the double humped camel is also called as the Bactrian camel. The Bactrian camel, also called as a double humped camel, it is a very large even-toed ungulate. It's large even-toed, that is, it will have even number of toes and ungulate, which is native to the steppes of Central Asia. In case of India, it is found in the Nubra Valley. So the thing is, it is not just India where it is found, but it is actually native to the steppe regions of Central Asia. What are the steppes? These are the temperate grasslands of Central Asia. Okay. So Bactrian camel, also called as a double humped camel, it is a large even-toed ungulate which is native to the steppes of Central Asia. In India, it is found in the Nubra Valley. Statement 3 was saying that one-horned rhinoceros is naturally found in India only. One-horned rhinoceros, it is naturally found in India only. So one-horned rhino, it is naturally found in areas of Assam, such as Kaziranga National Park, but it is not only in India where it is found. So again, it is not only Kaziranga it is where it is found. Also, please remember it is not only Assam in India where this one-horned rhino is found. In fact, the one-horned rhino, also called as a greater one-horned rhino, not only found in Assam, of course, Assam will hold the highest, but after Assam, we have West Bengal. After West Bengal, we have UP as well. So we will have Dudhwa National Park of UP, where there is some amount of one-horned rhino present, which were relocated from Assam. Some of these rhinos were relocated from Assam to UP. Dudhwa National Park, that is where we get to see in UP. And now there are also talks of introducing some of these rhinos to Corbett National Park in Uttarakhand as well. So please have some idea where the one-horned rhinoceros is found in India. And not just in India, but we also get to see that it is also found in Chitwan National Park of Nepal. Okay, it is also found in Chitwan National Park of Nepal. So out of the given options, we get to see A, one only is the right answer. A, one only is the right answer. Moving on to the fourth question for today. The fourth question here we get to see that there are two columns. On one column we have some famous place whose name has been mentioned, and in the other column we have the river flowing by that place which has been mentioned. And this question was asked in UPSC prelims 2019. Number one, Pandharpur, and the river given is Chandrabhaga. Number two, Tiruchirappalli, and the river given is Kaveri. Number three, Hampi, and the river which has been given is Malaprabha. So one, Pandharpur against Chandrabhaga, two, Tiruchirappalli against Kaveri, and three, Hampi against Malaprabha. You have been asked which of the pairs given above are correctly matched. Out of these, which have been matched correctly? That is what you have to find out. So let us again see the explanation part first. So what is Pandharpur? Pandharpur, it is a well-known pilgrimage town which is situated on the banks of the Chandrabhaga river. And Pandharpur, it is in the Solpur district of Maharashtra, India. So Pandharpur should be situated on the banks of Chandrabhaga river. What do we have over here? Pandharpur is against Chandrabhaga, right? Pandharpur and Chandrabhaga, so they are correctly matched. So next we have to find out whether Tiruchirappalli is present on the banks of river Kaveri and whether Hampi is situated on the banks of Malaprabha. So let us see. Tiruchirappalli, it is a district. It is located along the Kaveri river in Tamil Nadu. Okay, it is situated along the. It is located along the Kaveri river of Tamil Nadu. So please understand over here, Tiruchirappalli and Kaveri, these two have also been correctly matched. So Tiruchirappalli, it is a town which is located along the Kaveri river in Tamil Nadu, India. Next is Hampi. Hampi is near the Tungabhadra river and will have numerous temples, farms, and trading markets. So all of these ancient farms and temples, etc., will be found in Hampi, known for its chariot-like temples. So Hampi is in Karnataka, and Hampi is situated on the banks of the Tungabhadra river. What do we have over here? Hampi is against Malaprabha. So that is incorrect, right? Ideally should be Tungabhadra. So 1 and 2 are correct. That is A. 1 and 2 only. Okay. Now moving on to the last question for today. The last question is saying that in a given year in India, official poverty lines are higher in some states than in others because there are four options. So in a given year in India, official poverty lines are higher in some states than in others. Okay. Why is that? A. Poverty rates vary from state to state. B. Price levels vary from state to state. C. Gross state product varies from state to state. And D. Quality of public distribution varies from state to state. What is the major reason as to why we get to see in a given year of India official poverty line जो है that is higher in case of some. So that is not constant line. It will be higher in some states than in others. Why? A. Poverty rates vary from state to state. B. Price levels vary from state to state. C. Gross state product varies from state to state. And D. Quality of public distribution varies from state to state. So again, let us have a look at the explanation part. We get to see the Planning Commission methodology for estimating poverty at national and state levels. was regarded by some as inappropriate, okay, in giving a representative picture of the incidence of poverty in the country. So how much poverty was there that could not be found out by using the planning commission methodology for estimating the poverty level at the national and the state level. So it was inappropriate. It did not present the true picture. So the main points, what were the main points of the criticism? Here we get to see the adjustment procedure. That was one of the major points of criticism. Similarly, the choice of deflators to represent price changes in the poverty line. C. Application of the same poverty line in all the states. That was again a very big point of criticism. Okay, application of the same poverty line in all states, which implies the absence of price differentials across the state, that is not being taken into account. So if you're applying the same poverty line in all the states, in that case, that will not give you the correct picture, because uh, the prices of goods and all that keeps on varying. So you cannot have the same poverty line for all the states. Okay. Achha, D. Use of a fixed consumption basket over time. So our consumption pattern, that also undergoes a change over a period of time, and hence it becomes difficult to understand what ideally should be the poverty line. Okay, and E. The uniform consumption basket for all the states. The uniform consumption basket for all the states. Okay. So these were the main points of criticism so far as the planning commission methodology was concerned for estimating poverty at national and state level. So out of the given options, as you can understand, poverty rates, they vary from state to state. Price levels vary from state to state. That should be the right answer, because if the, again, how is the poverty line decided? It is decided on the basis of the minimum amount of money which will be required to consume a certain amount of food. But we get to see that if the prices of food, they keep on changing from state to state, automatically it becomes difficult to have a constant poverty line across all the states. Okay? So out of the given options, B, price levels vary from state to state. That should be the right answer. Okay, so with this we come to the end of today's discussion. I hope you have liked this video. Please let us know in the comment section. Please like, subscribe to AptiPlus Academy for Civil Services YouTube channel for more such informative videos, and share it with your friends who are also preparing for UPSC. This will be beneficial for them. So we'll meet again in another new episode of Prelims Warm Up with another set of 5 questions. Till then, please stay safe and take care of yourself and study hard. Thank you so much.